am ready to get started. Let me share my screen. Hold, please. All right. So today, guys, we are going to be covering a piece of technology that's available to everybody in our company called Trendgraphix. So Trendgraphix is a data and data visualization piece of software that we have a subscription to as a company. And so every agent in our company can access this at no cost to help build stronger data sets for their clients. So I'm going to give you the username, which you can see there, KWGC space agents. And then the password is KWGC pound 297. So if at any time you want to go ahead and log into that, you can. But what I'm going to do is just, I'm going to give you a tour of this tool and then show you a little bit of how you might be able to leverage it for listing appointments more than anything. But also if you are struggling to get your buyers to do the right thing when they have an opportunity on a home, they'll then be in a position to maybe better understand what sort of market they're in. So first and foremost, this is your home screen, and this is where you'll be doing a lot of the work with this particular tool. So we're going to start looking at this from the standpoint of the total market. And what I always like to do, I think your best view is always for sale, sold, pended, and new listings. So this will give you a good piece of information as it relates in one image around what's happening with listings and solds, existing inventory, and then pendings. And the numbers in this graph are going to be updated on a monthly basis, usually in the first about 7 days into the month, right? So this is all fed through MLS data. So for those of you who are like, how does this compare to the MLS? What will be different than the MLS? This is fed through the multiple listing services, MLS Now being ours. And then for those of you who operate on the far west side and into the islands, the Firelands piece is available as well. So this is your updated official monthly numbers, right? So you'll see sometimes we'll report with our market updates. These are unofficial numbers because things will move around a little bit as things close. But then you can also see some real-time data for the current month versus the previous month and the current month versus the same month last year, right? So this is your month-to-date numbers. So right in the center of the page, today's stats, you can see that inventory is down about 5.5% across the market. New listings are down 11%. Solds are down 16%, and pendeds are up 5%, right? So this is for the total market. So if I was going into a listing appointment and I wanted to articulate what the opportunity was, it is that more people are putting more things under contract than they did last year with less opportunity. So economics 101, supply and demand, you guys know it because you're dealing with it, right? Your listing price is the starting price. And we are seeing competition and we are seeing properties move very quickly. So, and you can tell that story with data, right? So everything that we're going to cover on here is going to be, there's going to be a visual and the data, right? So think about if you guys are familiar with the disc, right? You have your high I's, which would probably like to see a picture, and then your high C's, who would probably like to see these numbers, right? Now, what's really cool is, and what I recommend doing is, pop on here once a week during the once a week, maybe at the end of the week, and update your listing stuff for up to the minute. Listings are down 11%. Now's the time to list. In 2 months, we could see thousands more properties on the market, meaning it's more competitive for you as a seller. But start at the very high level and just get a sense of the market, right? Because this can also be a really important backdrop for lead generation, not just listings. If you look at the data from the 2021 National Association of Realtors, Home Buyers and Home Sellers demographic analysis, one of the things that they explore, I'm sure all you guys were waiting for that thing to come off the presses a few weeks ago. But one of the things that they explore is why do people choose the realtor that they choose, right? Like, what are the characteristics? And the top 4 characteristics that people choose their realtor based on is honesty, number 1, integrity, number 2, knowledge of the market, knowledge of the process, right? Those all rank above 95% of the time as very important to the consumer, right? So if you can talk intelligently about what's happening in the market, you can talk intelligently about what the process to buy or sell a home is, and you can convey it in a way that makes them feel as though you are a honest person of high integrity, you are going to be checking all of the major boxes, right? So when I say this is good for lead generation, anytime you see anybody and you ask them how's work going, they're going to ask you the same thing. And instead of saying what every realtor on the planet says, which is, I'm busy, it's crazy, you can talk intelligently about the market and where the opportunities lie. And then that makes you as a realtor stickier in their mind. So now we have this backdrop of here's the entire market. Now, let's say we want to be a little bit more specific and understand what's going on in a smaller geographic location. So you can pick a location down the side here by city, township, zip code, whichever you like. So let's just say, hey, Mike, the MLS is pretty big. It goes all the way to Canton, all the way to Youngstown, all the way to Toledo. So what's actually going on in Cuyahoga County, where, the things that we care about maybe. So let's just do Cuyahoga here. And what I can do is check that box and then do the same chart again, or hit show chart, and it's going to bring in the same information. And I'm going to see that, wow, I actually, saw inventory go down less so from December to January than what I did for the total market, right? And so you can zoom in here, and this becomes a little bit more valuable as we start to get into February, March, April, May, to ensure that we are accruing inventory appropriately, right? You see that trend line up. But you can also combine. So maybe it's maybe I'm a West Side agent and I sell in Cuyahoga, the west side of Cuyahoga County, and I also sell in Lorain County, just based on where I'm located. So I can actually combine those two into an addressable market that'll allow me to get a sense of what's happening. Oops. Sorry, it should have combined those two, and I think it unchecked. Maybe I can only do zip codes, combined zip codes. Let's try this one more time. There we go. That should work. So now I can see Lorain County and Cuyahoga County together and what their total inventory, new listings, pended and solds are. The trends are similar, right, as what we're seeing everywhere. But what this allows you to do is to provide more and more context. And let me just say this, understand better and better the context of the environment that you're operating in, because you could very quickly then go to, you could say, hey, I'm going to go down here, and I'm only concerned with what's happening in Avon Lake, right? And zoom in on that. and see, it's a similar trend pattern, but now you can talk in very specific numbers that are, hey, we're operating with less inventory than we ever have in the market. So a listing now is more valuable than it's ever been. It'll draw more attention than it's ever drawn. And you can create this this graphical backdrop that allows you to do it. And then all of these numbers update as well based on whatever qualifications you pick over here, right? So all of this data is is in the same format again. So if you want to better understand, hey, there were 33 properties for sale last year. There's only 28 for sale this year. Or wow, look at where inventory was in January of 21. All right, 53 to 31 at the end of January, right? So you can get that context also here graphically. Now, what's really cool is we can pull this. There's a section called the data table, right? And it's going to provide a breakdown of all of this information in a graphical format, or excuse me, in a table format. So this is just defaults to 15 months, so rolling 15 months. But you can see, okay, this is all the data that's driving the chart above, but now we're getting the next layer, right? Which is months of inventory on hand based on closed sales, months of inventory or months of supply based on pended sales. The absorption rate, which means how quickly our properties, how many properties are selling versus how many properties are being listed. And then you can do the same thing for pending. But now you can also get into your average active sales price, average active sold price, average sold price. So, look, as you get more familiar with this, like, wow, what are all the properties that are staying on the market? Are they low priced or high priced? What are all the properties that are selling, right? So while there might be inventory here, is it inventory that is it a bunch of $2 and $3 million homes? Well, probably is, because the stuff that's active on the market has an average price of over 600,000, but the stuff that's selling is around 350,000, right? And so then you can say, okay, well, I know my client is in the $0 to up to $500,000 range. Well, now I can, if I hit show chart again, it's going to recalculate everything that's under 500,000 for the same subset, so that I can say, hey, listen, Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, you've got a property that is under $500,000 in Avon Lake. There's only 10 of those for sale right now, right? And the average amount of time on market for those is, and for the last 9 of the last 10 months has been under 20 days, right? So very likely that you are going to be receiving cash offers. You're going to be getting stuff above asking price, right? You can really build a narrative and look, oh yeah, months of supply, like turning it over 3 times in a single month at that price point, right? Versus if I do the same thing and I say, well, hey, I've got somebody with a $750,000 home. They think they're going to list around $1 million. Well, let's see what everything looks like here. If I now, okay, so yeah, there's going to be only 4 of them on the market, but my average days on market is a completely different story, right? For most of these properties, right? I'm 90 days. So now I can set the expectation that depending on who my client is, right? I can get the story, but like behind the story. I can go and I can say, well, yes, homes are selling in a matter of minutes, and those are homes that are under $200,000 in Avon, right? But your home is going to be, on the market for, maybe 6 months collectively, because that's what the market's giving us on high priced homes. But if I just let them take the narrative that they hear around or from the news or from other realtors or realtors that don't work that market, that is, that could set me up for failure, because 30 days into a luxury listing, they might be expecting their properties sold, and you expect that it's just now getting started, or the market is really just now taking note of it. So your toggles here are price range, time period, and then also location, right? And you can be as dialed in on location or as spread out as you want. It really comes down to what's going to be relevant to your client, and really what's important from a market standpoint, right? Like, if you've got a $1 million listing in Bath, then what's happening in Avon might not be as relevant. So this allows you, especially guys, look, opportunities show up far and wide, and I don't believe it was in the top 10. Knowledge of the neighborhood was not listed as a hyper important thing to buyers and sellers. And so if you get an opportunity to go list something in an area that you've never done before, or help somebody buy in an area that's never bought before, you can very quickly get yourself in a position where you understand at least the last 15, 24, 36 months of a market, and can say what you expect to, what they can expect to find, and just know what you're getting yourself into. Pricing properties in areas that you don't work can be challenging, but there is, I believe these data sets go all the way back to 2003. And so the opportunity to get really nerdy, 2006, on some of this stuff is possible. The other nice thing is that for those of you who like to operate in Excel, you can simply highlight, copy, and paste into Excel. This is already formatted to drop into Excel. And then there's a couple other standard graphical displays. Again, this is average price per square foot, so you can see where that goes from a market standpoint. Days on market in total. And then this is a ratio of sold price to list price. So you can see, while we're still operating in an environment where a lot of stuff goes over, if you look at the total market, right, there's a lot of properties that aren't, or excuse me, like, you'll see it's averaging out around 99%, but hey, let's see what that looks like in that Avon Lake area again, just to better understand, that market. Hey, what can I expect from a list price to sell price in those very competitive markets? Oh, well, now it's decidedly over 100%, right? But what if I'm going to list under that 499 again, right? Okay, well, are those more likely to go for above or below list price? They should more likely above, right? You can see, consistently 100% or more in that market. And then anytime you want, you can just, go back to highlighting the entire MLS. And then this is the same information, but, sold price and list price. And you can see what are the trends. Again, just over the last few months, what does that look like? Unless you're really, really wanting to be able to tell a story about the arc of a particular area, you would be, 6 months, 15 months are usually good to figure out what's going on here, right? So look at that. Our average for sale price has gone up from a market standpoint here in the first month of the year. And then you can see, months of inventory, not terribly interesting, when it's just also low. But again, there is the total market snapshot, as well as the opportunity to get get more specific, for your clients based on what is, what's the property they're selling or what's the property that they're looking for.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What kind of information would you grab from here then for a buyer, if you were helping a buyer, that wouldn't like completely scare them? Obviously, based on today's market, everything is it's easy to find things that would look good to sellers, but
Yeah.
would
Yeah.
you-
I think that this information right here, like if I was going to show a buyer anything, I would have this in my buyer packet. And if they wanted to be hey Trina, if they wanted to be if they want to be in the game, you know what I mean? So like, let's go back to, let's see, we've been picking on Avon Lake. Let's get some East Side up in here. Bedford Heights, right? Let's see what their selling price to original list price is. So it's similar, but I mean, look at last summer, right? Now this would be a fantastic chart to provide for your buyers. If there was a deal to get, you would have got it by now. But when it comes time in Bedford Heights this summer to buy a house, you better come well heeled, because the average, right? The average sell price to list price ratio in that neighborhood was 104% of the list price, right? And so this provides a great deal of clarity around, you're not getting a deal. You're not getting a deal. It's the biggest sellers, or the most extreme sellers market that we've ever had, maybe since the creation of real estate. I don't know. The idea here that that you would come in and look at a house at 179 in this Bedford Heights area, and that you would offer 175. There's a the chances are infinitesimally small that you are going to be successful in that offer. And so it doesn't scare them. It just helps set the context. Like, look, if that is an issue, then what we need to do is we need to recalibrate where we're coming from, either with the price range that we're looking in, the financial mechanics involved. Can you put 10% down instead of 20% down to open up some capacity to go over asking price if you need to, right? Can we get comfortable with that and show them the way that they can architect an offer that gets them in where they want to be, and gets them the home. But this would be the most powerful thing that I think you could show a buyer, in addition to, look, here's what the market is. Here's our expectation. Like, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. Properties are gonna list aggressively in the spring. You are better off getting one of these than counting on these 50 to show up in July, right? So get while the getting's good. Get comfortable paying above list price. Just start coaching your people to think about it as starting price, and then know. I mean, you could also show them this, like, like, we have to get ourselves and our buyers in a position where they can get comfortable. Like, what are the deal breakers, right? What are the houses that you cannot accept and will not accept this as a part of the property? Or what are the things that you must have? Getting that list clear, and then they have to go. I mean, look at this, 0.4 months of inventory on hand, which means that, and you guys are living it, but they're not, right? They're first time home buyer. They're the person who's in a position for the first time. They're experiencing this, and you've been experiencing it for 27 months or however long we've been dealing with this. This is going to be really helpful in them understanding that, like, this is why you have to write the offer day one, right? And what it allows you to do, right? We want to help as many families as possible get into the home of their dreams or the home of their needs. And the best way to do that is to get them to understand what their buy box could or should look like in the existing market, right? Because being passionate about and caring a lot about and investing a lot in your people is good, and your buyers is good, but also, like, there are buyers that are buying now and buyers that are trying to buy now, and whatever you can do to move everybody into that first bucket by the people who are trying, they're not failing. I mean, listen, you will miss because somebody else went 20,000 over and you went 15,000 over, whatever it is, or somebody else did something that they weren't willing to do. That's fine, but just make sure you're not working with somebody that's coming in trying to be the exception to this rule, right? And that rule being, you got to bring the bag. Jamie, you unmuted. Do you have a question?
Yeah. So Mike, knowing that you can kind of dive down into a city or zip code level, is there a way to rank filter based on those to show volume of homes in, one city versus another, or, like the stats you're showing about sold versus list price ratios, like to show, okay, Bedford Heights, you're always going to be paying at or above list price, but in X city, maybe we have a little wiggle room.
There's not a way to do a side by side, right? To like do like an
Okay.
AP. But what I might do is, if I knew that my clients were looking in one of 3 cities, I would just pull this, rip this off into an Excel spreadsheet, and then replicate those graphs 3 times over, right? And help them understand what the variability of the markets they're buying in are, because you could just drop those in and then recalibrate it.
Okay, cool. And then inversely, for, let's say I have investor clients who are looking at multiple cities or states right now. So is there, it sounds like maybe not within this tool, is there a way to think on a more comparative level nationally, or like our MLS versus others in Ohio and things like that? Or this just isn't the tool for it, right?
It could be the tool for it in a similar fashion. And if you knew that there was a, hey, this person's going to buy in Cleveland, Columbus, or Cincinnati.
Exactly.
I've tapped into a network, in Columbus, where I've got access to, I have somebody down there pull some reports from their Trendgraphix on their MLS. Okay. Where it can get challenging is in the areas that are bifurcated, and they might have 2 different MLSs. Like Northeast Ohio used to have like 3 or 4, and then they consistently consolidated. So with that, that's something that will, you could go seek out, but there isn't like a readily available piece of the puzzle there.
Okay. Yeah. And totally, probably an outlier situation maybe for other people. I just wanted to make sure I asked.
Yep. No, it's a great question. So guys, this is the nickel tour of this platform that you all have access to. So I encourage you all to get in there, click around. You're not going to break anything. You're not going to bump into anything. But it might be pretty valuable to you in the next conversation that you have with a buyer or seller. And then you can obviously download, save all the graphs that you want. And so if for those of you who have maybe a keener marketing eye, some of these might be a little plain Jane, which is why, again, I recommend just coming down here, pulling the data out, and then you can manipulate it in Excel or whatever program you want to create some more attractive things, post them on the web. I mean, you could very quickly get to put together a nice little piece of marketing to target people in a certain population about what the opportunity for them is with their home.
Is there any way we can look up an office, like our office or certain offices?
Yeah, absolutely. So when you're here, you can go to Broker Edge Lite. And so this is going to actually allow you to better understand all the way from an office, aggregated brands, and individual agent standpoint. So we can, let's go office. So let's look at our office, and this is going to be, let's go last year, right? And so you can actually pick a specific office, or you could just show the full report. And so you can see here, this is going to provide statistics on all the offices in Northeast Ohio, all the offices in our MLS, right? So when we say we're the #1 office in the MLS, this is where we get that data from, right? And then, you could also say, let's say that you were like, well, what about Keller Williams as a brand, right? You can also adjust it to say, from a broker standpoint, you would go down here and say Aggregated Brands, which allows all of the Keller Williams offices to be rolled up into one, and apply that change. You can see we were only about 800 units off from dethroning Howard Hanna. So as the #1 brand in Northeast Ohio. Now, keep in mind, we've got 7 Keller Williams offices throughout Northeast Ohio, and they have 62. So I like our efficiencies. But you can also say, hey, what about, I want to see, come on.
Do we have access to that broker edge light? Because I don't.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can also go by top producer, right? You can see like who are the top producers in the area. And this is where this can be, for those of you who are, you see Greg and Gregor Langer, Mike Sinicola, Sylvia and Corvaya and the Corvaya team, Jose Medina, Deb Ferrante, Mike Azam, our guy Ryan Young, right? This is sorted by units. You can also sort it by volume, and see that changes the hierarchy a little bit. But what's really cool is you can also break down the locations the same way we did on the first chart, right? So let's see, where should we look? What city should we look in? We can go.
Look in Berea.
And Berea, who's
Andrew
probably going to be Andrew Ginter, the king of Berea, isn't he?
That's what we call him. And it's his birthday.
And it is his birthday. Berea. So I can go to Berea and I can say, okay, who sells more? Who's the top agent in Berea? Right? Oops. And, okay, so the Corvayas are 20 units and Susie Colvin, 11 units, for the year in Berea. But you might, if there's an area that you are farming, when you look at the annualized numbers, you can say, hey, I'm one of the top 10 agents in X area, right? You can make that a valid statement, with this information. And you can, again, do that under any time period, right? You can go back further. You can shrink it down, like, hey, in Q1, so for those of you, like, you don't have to wait until the end of the year to start telling a story. So this is a really great way to tell a story. If if you closed 15 units in the first quarter and half of them are in, Bedford Heights, then you might have a really compelling story to tell in Bedford Heights, because you might be number 1, 2, or 3 for agents and teams selling in that marketplace. So whatever it is, like, you don't want to keep just making things smaller and smaller until you're the number 1. But at the same time, it gives you a story to tell. And it'll also help you understand, where does the market share exist and where does the opportunity exist for you with your business.
You said that this updates monthly?
Yes, it does. So you see this says February 22. So like this will go to March. Like the February numbers will be official probably next Monday. It's usually about a week into the month that they, because you have a few days to close out your deals in the MLS, and so then they have a few days of auditing, and then they post official numbers to Trendgraphix.
And Mike,
Cool.
looking from this view, being on a team, it would ladder up to team leader for those stats that you were just showing for top producers,
That's right.
right?
That's
Okay.
right. Yep. So like, I don't know if you guys have ever sold anything in Berea, but let's see what. Probably Edward, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Somebody knocked one down last year in Berea for you guys. Taking territory. That's what we love to see. Great. Well, gang, we've run about 9 minutes over here, so I apologize for that. But listen, this is a great tool. You guys have the login. If you're responsible enough, this can be a rabbit hole to go down, and I've gone down it 1,000 times myself. I've actually exported a lot of this data into separate spreadsheets that I update regularly because that's what I find to be a fun thing to do. So I would encourage you, just click around, see what you can see what you can learn, see what you can understand about your business, about the market. I would encourage you to spend much more time on this section, just because the context will allow you to have a higher level of conversation. And it's really important to remember that everybody you talk to is very few of us are spending time with people who will go to sleep tonight without a roof over their head. And so the more intelligently you can talk about the market, the more articulate you are about what's happening, why it's happening, when it happened, and how it's going to happen, the more likely somebody is to remember that you are a realtor when they are engaged with somebody who needs your help, right? So your ability to talk at a high level about what's going on in real estate will make your conversations much stickier than the other individuals having conversations with the same people that are just like, oh, it's so crazy, it's so busy, right? Yes, it is crazy and it is busy, and we've never had more opportunity to help people in a very rapid way than right now. And so if you're communicating from a position of strength because you know the data, that's going to be much better than the person who's like, oh, it's so tiring, it's so exhausting. Yes, it is. And where's the opportunity? So that's all I got. I ain't got no more. Any other questions from the group?
Thanks a lot. That's about all I have. Thanks a lot.
Awesome.
Yeah, this is amazing.
Well, as you click around and you get in there and you get to understand it a little bit better. If you guys ever have questions, please let me know. It's one of my favorite tools to use to better understand what's going on. So, all right, gang. Well, thank you for being here. Glad you guys could make it, and I'll look forward to getting your inquiries as you explore this more and more.
Thanks, Mike.